Hello, my name is Eric Mistry, and I'm the Instructional Technologist and Digital Media Specialist here at the College of St. Scholastica. Though I'm a fan of all things Google, I am absolutely in love with Google Forms. It's an extremely underrated tool for everyone to use, but educators will find it particularly powerful. Today we'll be exploring some of its hidden strengths and looking at some examples that may open new possibilities for you. Just a note, some of these will work better for classrooms using some sort of one-to-one program, but these can be useful in other aspects as well. Another really important thing that may sound odd coming from a technologist, but the technology really is secondary here. Qualtrics, or another survey or quizzing software built into your LMS or other system, may have similar strengths and fit your workflow better. Today is about using tools in this vein to make your life easier and to do incredible things. Technology will always change, but you can rely on structures, theories, and strategies. So, why Google Forms? There are some more reasons that will reasonably fit on a slide, but first of all, it's very easy to use. It'll work on phones, tablets, desktops, laptops, Chromebooks, anything that will run a modern internet browser. Google's also made a ton of improvements to make it easier to use. It's a great tool for flipping the classroom, getting feedback, tracking progress, and boosting engagement. You can use it to collect data to make complex comparisons from year to year or class to class. Finally, it can save you tons of time if you use it correctly. Here's what we're going to cover today. Essentially, we'll start with looking at some useful tools built into Google Forms, then flow into some examples of how to use these tools effectively. We're going to go a little fast here, and I'll admit I may gloss over something that may be second nature to someone who lives in Google. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me or tweet at me, and I'll make sure to answer you. I'm going to give a quick 1-minute guide to the Google Forms interface here, just so we can establish a similar vocabulary, and anyone who's less familiar can get a base note of what's going on. Something that may be useful for everyone is to go to forms.google.com and poke around in your own example form while we explain things in this presentation. If you're brand new to Google Forms, I highly suggest checking out Google's training online. It's fantastic. So, basically, we start a Google form looking close to this. The area circled in green is the main question area, where you build the form itself. Orange is your toolbar for adding content, questions, sections, titles to the form. Red, in the top right corner, is where you can activate a lot of the settings, change the look of your form, and send it out. Finally, the blue box is where you swap between the questions and the responses to your form. Now that we've got a base understanding of Google Forms, we'll delve into a more detailed look at some of the more useful tools. If you've got any questions, again, feel free to send them to me and I'll try my best to answer them. We'll start by actually expanding beyond Google Forms. Google has made it possible for developers to make add-ons that allow Google products to talk with each other. This makes some really useful things happen, particularly between Google Forms and Google Docs. Each Google product has some great add-ons to explore, so I encourage you to dig around. We'll get to the add-on store by clicking the 3 dots in the top right corner. Like any app store, you can explore screenshots, descriptions, and reviews of different add-ons. New ones get added often, so it's worth checking out. Some may also note daily or monthly limitations, so that's important to note as well, especially if you're working with large groups of people. So, let's pretend I've clicked to add Form Publisher. Now, when I click the puzzle piece in the top right corner, my add-ons will appear. Some will have a pop-up box appear on the bottom right to let you configure options. Here's some of the add-ons for forms I find most useful right now. Form Publisher collects data from Google Form questions and generates a formatted Google Doc, slide, or sheet, exports that as a PDF, and emails it to a set list of people. Form notifications will harvest email addresses to send respondents to a form an email and can send a notification to the form creator as well. Doc Appender adds information collected from the form to a selected Google Doc. That's great for collecting peer reviews or updating reports. Branching is hugely powerful and definitely underutilized. Essentially, you can make the Google form ask different questions depending on how certain multiple choice questions are answered. We'll go into much more detail soon, but note that it's currently only for multiple choice questions. Here's how you unlock it. Create a multiple choice question and then click on the three dot symbol connected to that question and choose Go to Section Based on Answer. Just a general Google tip, if you see three dots anywhere, it will let you unlock additional settings or features. The options change for each question type, so I encourage you to explore. Quizzing is a relatively new feature in Google Forms, and I'm guessing we'll see pretty continuous improvement as Google gets more and more into education. This can be really useful for all sorts of things. You can assign points to questions and auto-grade certain question types by creating an answer key. You can also speed up the grading of essay or short answer questions by using conditional formatting and formulas on the Google Sheet spreadsheet that outputs from the Google form. You can specify a number of different options for this. It's somewhat complex, but Google Training Online is a fantastic way of getting started. Answer summaries are incredibly useful. Google Forms will automatically summarize and display easy to understand graphs, lists, or charts based on the question and responses. You can also view the form responses one by one or via spreadsheet if you'd like, but I find the summary really useful, especially when I'm trying to find patterns in the data. So for example, from this form, we've got emails collected, we've got checkboxes and how they correspond, multiple choice with images as an answer option, and even scales and grids turned into data. This panel is also where you unlock the spreadsheet for viewing answers. Click the green icon you see in the red circle, and that will generate a Google Sheet based on the answers. And here's how some of that data looks in a spreadsheet. Each question is a column, and new submissions form a new row. The timestamp column can be really useful. You can see when students are doing the work and keep an eye out for odd patterns or procrastinators. Formulas, conditional formatting, filter views, and other spreadsheet magic works really well here for sorting through data. Finally, here's some extra settings I find extremely useful. Access these by clicking the gear icon in the top right corner. Here's some things that I would love to have enabled by default, as I tend to like to use them a lot. Collecting the email address is very useful, and I always like my respondents to get a response receipt. It can help ensure everyone knows their response went through and will be crucial for later examples. One thing I have checked here that I'd encourage you to remove is the Edit After Submit checkbox. That's much more hassle than it's worth and can lead to confusion if someone goes back and re-edits their answer. Under Presentation, I always like to have Show Progress selected, particularly on forms that have many sections. Shuffling the question order can be really useful on quizzes, but it can cause chaos with forms that rely on the order of questions, so be careful. Settings are form-wide, so all your sections will obey them. The confirmation message can say anything, and can be a really useful spot to put information. Unfortunately, you can't really rely on anyone actually reading it, and it's tough to get back to after the form's been closed. Finally, that little artist palette allows you to change the background and the header of the form. The colors are nice, but I find them a little boring. The real fun is clicking that bottom right picture icon. There's all sorts of awesome pre-made pictures and illustrations here, and you can even add your own. This is a small touch, but it does make a difference. People are taking your form, and the least we can do is make it pretty. This also can be really useful in keeping things sorted. You can use certain colors to separate chapters, or to differentiate between tests and quizzes. A hidden gem under the three dot menu is a pre-filled link. This lets you answer a lot of the form's questions, and then users can choose to modify those answers or just submit it. This is handy if you know most people will need to check a certain option, but you still need to collect that certain data. Saving people time means they're more likely to finish your form. Under the Send Form option, you have tons of ways to distribute forms. I rarely use the direct email, but it can be useful to directly embed the form in an email. I tend to use the link option, and I shorten the URL using that checkbox or a link shortener like tinyurl, bit.ly, or goo.gl. The embed option can be very cool on a website and is great for collecting contact info or RSVPs for events. We've made it to the projects. This is one of my favorites, and I saw it at last year's presentation at the Minnesota e-learning summit by Wendy Wolf, who showed this off. Essentially, you build a guided notes page for students with multiple choice, essay questions, and the content. When the students submit the form, they get an emailed copy of their notes, and the instructor can immediately see if the class has understood the lessons. This is where having those response receipts we talked about earlier enabled is extremely important. This trick takes advantage of the add-on called Form Publisher. Essentially, this takes inputs from a form and turns them into a nicely generated PDF based on a Google Doc template. These are great for generating conference summaries for parents, book reports, certificates of achievement, and more. It'll save time formatting and replacing text because all you need to do is fill in a simple form, and the rest of the work is done for you. This is similar to the note sheet, but designed for flipping the classroom. Often, this relies on videos, but we don't have great analytics about whether the students are watching and retaining the information. So, simply embed the video in the Google form, then have students complete the form's questions based on the video content. This way, you can check the answer summaries or auto-graded quiz right before class and know whether the students watched and answered the questions correctly, which will tell you whether there's areas that need to be covered again during that class session. This removes some of the risk from doing a flipped classroom session because you can tell immediately whether your students are ready for class or whether it needs to be a review day. This takes advantage of the spreadsheet generation and the tools that come with it. For any sort of participation or other accountable situations, having a Google form to quickly enter the data makes things easy. It also creates a useful spreadsheet to identify problems before they start. Using simple count formulas and conditional formatting, you can easily see patterns even among hundreds of responses. This can be especially powerful if used grade-wide or school-wide, as it can help identify patterns that would be invisible to individual teachers, such as multiple tardies or an uncharacteristic amount of discipline incidents from a student. On a more positive note, this same system can identify and recognize positive student actions as well. Adaptive learning is an incredibly powerful tool, and Google Forms can build some awesome examples. It's time-consuming, as you need to generate questions and then learning examples for every wrong answer, but it can be a great way to help students learn. The technical side is easy. You simply build branching questions to establish an offshoot for every wrong question that brings them to a new learning experience, and then test them with a new question to see whether they've properly retained the material. You can make this as deep and complicated as you want, or it can be pretty simple. Finally, you can use Google Forms for all sorts of general questionnaires or feedback. Forget sending out paper forms that backpacks magically eat. You can get direct, sorted responses from parents, other teachers, students, and so on. You can save massive amounts of time and paper on voting, developing schedules, or choosing activities. You can also easily generate low-risk feedback from students on new teaching methods or experiments before waiting for an end-of-the-year or end-of-term survey. Finally, because you can use and reuse forms each year or term, you can generate comparable results to see whether things are working from year to year or term to term. That was a ton of information we just went over, and I'm sure you've got lots of questions. I'm happy to create screencasts or answer any other questions you may have. Contact me via my email, as you can see on the screen, or at my Twitter handle, and I'll do my best to answer your question quickly, efficiently, and effectively. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.